Hey everyone, today we're diving into something that's, well, at the core of everything we do. We're going to talk about how we can actually understand human experience itself in a rigorous scientific way. So let me start with a question for you. How would you scientifically study a feeling? I mean, really think about that. How do you get inside someone's head and unpack something like hope or frustration in a way that isn't just guesswork? It sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? But it turns out researchers have a really powerful tool designed for this exact problem. And that answer is an approach called phenomenology. But here's where it gets super interesting. Phenomenology isn't just one thing. Think of it like a fork in the road. When a researcher decides to study an experience, they have to choose between two very different paths to get to the truth. And this slide just nails the core difference. On one path, you've got transcendental phenomenology. That's all about finding out what an experience fundamentally is, its pure, universal core. But on the other path, you have interpretive phenomenology, which is all about what an experience means to the individual person living it. Two very different goals. So let's walk down that first path for a bit. This approach, the transcendental one, is all about that hunt for the pure, unchanging essence of an experience. But before we can get how they study it, we have to understand how they believe an experience even happens in our minds in the first place. What's the philosophy here? Well, from this viewpoint, it's a pretty clean three-step process. First, you, the subject, observe something out in the world, the object. Then, that object sort of reveals its true nature to you. And finally, you experience that object directly in your consciousness. It's like a direct line from the world right into your mind. Okay, right. That seems straightforward enough. But hang on. This brings up a huge problem for any researcher, right? How in the world can you study that pure experience in someone else without your own opinions, your own history, just completely muddying the waters? That's a massive challenge. And the answer is a really big mental shift. The researcher has to move from what they call the natural attitude, which is basically how we all walk around every day, just taking things for granted, over to the phenomenological attitude. And in this mode, everything is questioned. You have to hit pause on all your assumptions and theories. So to make that shift, researchers have this specific toolkit. The first tool is epoche, or bracketing. It's where you literally put your own beliefs in a box and set them aside. Next is phenomenological reduction, where you strip the experience down to its absolute bare bones. Then you use imaginative variation to see what stays the same across different scenarios. And if you do all that, you arrive at the prize, the essence of the experience. So in a real study, it looks something like this. The researcher interviews people about what they went through. The most critical step, the researcher actively practices epoche. They bracket their biases. They comb through all the interviews to find those common, core features, and what they end up with is that essence, the part of the experience they believe is true for absolutely everyone. Okay, so that's path number one. Now let's go back to that fork in the road and check out the other direction. This is interpretive phenomenology, and it's playing a whole different game. And just like before, we've got to start with that same basic question, but look at it from a totally new angle. How does an experience even happen according to this point of view? And the answer here could not be more different. Experience isn't just about passively observing something. Nope. Here, an experience happens when a person interacts with the world, with people, with situations. It's this messy, dynamic dance of acting, reacting, and just coping. So you can see the goal here isn't to find some universal truth that fits everyone. The goal is to understand the participant's entire story, all of it. Their personal thoughts, what they did, how they handled it, the whole rich, complicated picture. And that leads to a totally different research process. So someone interacts with something in their life, then the researcher interviews them not to strip it down, but to really hear their full, detailed story. The researcher's job is to then carefully pull out the meanings from that story. The final result isn't a universal law, but a deep, rich understanding of what that experience meant to that one person. Okay, we have officially walked down both paths. So now, let's put these two powerful ways of thinking side by side. A little showdown to really nail down what makes them so different. When you really boil it all down, what's the one thing that separates these two approaches to understanding what we all go through? This table says it all, really. Let's break it down. For the transcendental path, the main goal is to find the universal essence. For the interpretive path, it's all about personal meaning. How do they see experience? One sees it as an object we observe in our mind, the other sees it as an active interaction with the world, and that changes everything about the researcher's job. Are they an objective scientist isolating features, or a careful interpreter of human stories? So, why are we talking about all this? Why does this academic-sounding stuff matter to you and me? Let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. Because here's the thing. It doesn't matter if a researcher is hunting for a universal truth or trying to understand a single personal story. Both of these paths lead us to the exact same place. They help us build empathy and gain a much, much deeper insight into what it actually feels like to be human. And this is not just theory. This kind of deep understanding is absolutely vital in so many fields. Think about UX design. You have to understand a user's frustration to fix it, or marketing to really get a customer's journey. And especially in things like healthcare and education, where understanding a patient's fear or a student's confusion can literally change their life. So I'm going to leave you with a question to mull over. What's one experience in your own life, big or small, that you just wish the world understood a little bit better? Something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.